Not all of our minisodes need to be from listeners. In fact, places or lesser-known cases can sometimes take us to dark realms. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Dark Realms. Now, if you're wondering about the glasses, it's not to try and look cool, it's because, trying to keep fit, I have an absolute shiner or black eye. So yes, vanity's involved, but it's not to try and look cool, it's to try and not look stupid, which I indeed was. For anyone listening via audio, you don't have to worry about that. Also, just to make people aware that if you are watching this on YouTube, of course, we do have the Dark Paranormal podcast, which is available wherever you get your podcasts from. And currently we have a special treat because it's our 20th anniversary. And that is that our Patreon is now on a free trial. So you can head over to patreon.com/The Dark Paranormal, and you can have a free trial between now and the end of June of our highest tier, which gives you access, or early access should I say, which is ad-free to anything on our main feed, as well as full access to the entire back catalogue of our Patreon-only podcast, Dark Bites, where we take a look at some of the shorter experiences our listeners have sent in. So, if that sounds like your thing, head over to patreon.com/The Dark Paranormal. Now, today's Dark Realm is a fascinating one, and it's been suggested by our listener, Diaz. So thank you, Diaz, for the suggestion. Devil's Island, or Cobia Island, to give it its correct name. Cobia Island, which is situated in the Gulf of Chiquiri, off Panama's main Pacific coast, was inhabited by indigenous groups, primarily the Cobia tribe, known for fishing, hunting, and agriculture. Until Spanish colonization began in the 16th century, Cobia remained largely remote and untouched, due to its isolated location and the dense tropical forests. Following Panama's independence from Spain in 1821 and its later separation from Colombia in 1903, Cobia Island remained sparsely populated and rarely visited. In 1919, Panama established the Cobia Island Penal Colony to isolate dangerous criminals and political prisoners from the mainland, inspired by similar penal islands around the world. Due to its remote and isolated location, escape was nearly impossible, earning it the nickname Devil's Island. Well, that's one of the reasons. Over the decades, Cobia became notorious for harsh conditions, human rights abuses, and brutal treatment of prisoners, especially under the military regimes of people like Manuel Noriega. Prisoners endured forced labor, violence, malnutrition, and isolation. Political dissidents were sent there and never heard from again. International criticism and pressure from human rights organizations just intensified in the 90s, which led to Panama gradually reducing their operations on the island. And in 2004, the penal colony was officially closed after 85 years of operation. The remaining inmates were transferred to mainland prisons. Devil's Island is now an eerie wilderness. With its abandoned cell blocks and overgrown ruins, locals and visitors whisper of the restless spirits of the island's dark past, rife with torture, executions, and disappearances. It's all given rise to terrifying folklore. And we're about to explore three of the most dreaded alleged spirits haunting Devil's Island's ruins. Firstly, we'll look at the nightstick guard of cell block 14. In the crumbling corridors of Cobia's main camp is one ghost feared above all, and that is the nightstick guard. According to former inmates and guards, the apparition of a uniformed guard still patrols the cell blocks, long after the prison's closure in 2004. The building, a concrete barracks with iron cells, is very real. Its history as part of Panama's penitentiary system well documented. But the ghostly sentry stalking its halls is based on persistent hearsay, shared by many, Legend says that this particular spirit was a particularly cruel prison guard, one who met a violent end on Cobia, and is now doomed to patrol eternally. Some versions claim he was murdered by vengeful inmates. Others whisper he took his own life in madness. The nightstick guard legend and history, and the whole folklore attached, probably grew from Panama's past dictatorships, feeding into this idea that one guard's soul never left. By all accounts, Cobia's real guards were terrifying enough. Prisoners were beaten, chained, and worse. Guards would carry heavy wooden nightsticks. A simple detail central to the ghost story, but a horrific one if you happen to be on the receiving end of one of those sticks. After the prison closed, the buildings were left to rot, becoming overgrown ruins, and locals avoided the place like the plague, calling the island La Isla del Diablo, or the Island of the Devil. It's said this phantom warder walked cell block 14 in the darkest hours, dragging his club along the metal bars. One source is quoted as saying we would hear it in the silence, the sound of that nightstick rattling along those metal bars, one cell after another. But no guard was ever there, and that's direct from a former Cobia inmate. Encounters with the nightstick guard are auditory and atmospheric. Ex-prisoners recount walking to the metallic scrape of a baton on cell bars, footsteps in empty corridors. Guards on duty would report fleeting sightings of a shadowy figure, one that would walk and then vanish upon approach. One bizarre description says the shadow of the guard moves without a light source. Cold spots and feelings of being watched are also attributed to this spectre, making him a terrifying legend reflecting Cobia's grim past. Next, we'll take a look at the shape-shifting prisoner, El Prisoner Fugado. Of all of Cobia's ghost stories, none is more harrowing than that of the shape-shifting prisoner. This entity's legend centers on the shoreline of an eerily abandoned camp, known locally as Campamento 12. It was here that a guard reportedly encountered something supernatural, a possible cautionary tale that has now found its way into paranormal lore. According to legend, one guard witnessed the prisoner dart into the jungle trying to escape. Determined to catch the escapee, he pursued him onto the beach. Finally tackling the fugitive, the guard discovered something which was truly horrific. The prisoner had no face. In fact, no human features at all. In one version of the event, the captive melted into a shadow, leaving the guard clutching at thin air. In another, the prisoner's eyes glowed red, revealing a demonic visage. Deeply shaken, the guard reportedly never fully recovered, eventually taking his own life. Let's take a quick break to tell you about a wonderful product. Did you know there are more than 1,000 hormone disruptors living rent-free in our world? From the food we eat to the air we breathe, even the skincare we use, they could be messing with your hormones and making you feel like you're stuck in a mystery of your own. And just like a plot twist in a true crime story or one of those unexpected scary moments in our submitters' experiences, hormonal changes like premenopause or menopause can strike at the most unexpected times. And suddenly you're dealing with mood swings, sleepless nights, and all those other symptoms that make you feel like you're losing control. But here's the good news. This is one mystery you can solve with Happy Mammoth. Just take the 2-minute free quiz from Happy Mammoth, answer a few simple questions about what you're experiencing and where you're at in life, and you'll uncover the real culprit behind your hormonal symptoms. And the best part? After taking the quiz, you'll get a personalized recommendation to help you balance your hormones so you can feel like yourself again. The results are impressive. There are over 40,000 reviews on their website. Women cannot stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds. According to a survey, 86% of the women started losing weight, 77% say it improved their mood, and the biggest benefit? 100% of the women surveyed said they're feeling like themselves again. For a limited time, you can get 15% off your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code DARKParanormal at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code DARKParanormal for 15% off today. Multiple witnesses have corroborated part of his story. Some saw the guard chasing something they couldn't see, according to a few. Others describe the guard chasing something not human. This, of course, just adds to the chilling aura of the tale. And down the other side of the folkloric spectrum, some people believe it was the devil himself, toying with the living on his own island. Others believe, including some of the people who can corroborate the story, that what the guard actually encountered was the ghost of a long-since dead inmate, one who was forever or eternally replaying his attempt to escape. Historically, the island saw many attempts to escape fail, which fueled such dark folklore. Apparently, one of the tales of escape, or attempted escape by one of the prisoners, was not to evade the guards or the cruel treatment, but the island's tormenting ghosts, only further solidifying the legend all in. Another quote regarding this shape-shifting prisoner states that after a long pursuit, the guard caught up with this said prisoner, but it was an evil entity that entered his mind. Occult enthusiasts report late-night sightings of a figure darting between trees, or footprints which just stop in the middle of nowhere. Apparently brave or stupid enough people who wish to try and challenge the entity will demand it appears at the top of their voice, and they're often met with distant, disembodied moans, groans, and even their own name being called back to them. All of this just adds to the awful aura of this shape-shifting prisoner. But next, we'll look at something arguably darker still, and that is the black shadow of Los Desparecidos. Our third terrifying presence on Cobia is not one ghost. Instead, it's believed to be the manifestation of many spirits into one malevolent force, commonly known as La Sombra Negra, the Black Shadow. This apparently malevolent spectre haunts the ruins of the prison's hospital and dormitories, and apparently is closely tied to the history of Los Desparecidos, political prisoners who were secretly tortured and executed on the island. According to legend, the Black Shadow is either at the collective spirit of all of those tortured political prisoners, or a group of spirits led by one enraged ghost, believed to be that of a political activist murdered on the island. Late at night, a tall, gaunt figure with burning eyes roams the area, wisping between the crumbling cell blocks and whispering many prisoners' names with many different voices. On certain anniversaries, the shadow reportedly emits blood-curdling screams that echo through the prison yard. Hundreds of inmates died on Cobia, buried in unmarked graves. Soldiers and rangers stationed at the island report unsettling experiences: bunk bed shaking, phantom lights, and spectral visitors in the middle of the night. One guard's vivid account describes a tall, gaunt figure who rushed at him silently and disappeared as he approached. And as that guard started to regroup himself, he would appear again and approach again before disappearing once more. Another quote regarding this apparent same figure says a friend of theirs was doing a patrol when they noticed a very tall, dark-haired man standing behind him in the reflection of one of the windows. Apparently it looked as if he was about to pounce, so the guard dived to one side and turned around, and he was still there, staring at him dead in the eye, following him. Then suddenly, nothing. He was gone. Visitors often report eerie sensations like the feeling of being watched, seeing orbs in photographs, or hearing disembodied screams echoing through the night. Fishermen on the island speak of blue flames moving between the trees, believed locally to represent restless spirits. Sudden icy chills in the tropical air are often attributed to the shadow's passing presence, an unsettling reminder of the island's brutal past. But the ghost stories of Cobia have birthed a modern myth, a modern conspiracy theory, one we touched on just last week. And so for the second time in as many weeks, there is also a modern-day theory that this entire paranormal energy or story surrounding Devil's Island was created by the CIA to keep people away from the island. You see, some people speculate that intelligence agencies really liked Cobia's positioning for clandestine activities, particularly during the Cold War, when in real life the island was actually used as a black site. Historically, US agencies have explored psychological warfare, employing and embellishing on local superstitions with everything from vampirism to piping the sound of alleged ghosts through hidden speakers in trees. Similarly, as we talked about last week, spreading hauntings as a cover story on Cobia would ensure unwanted visitors stayed away. Whilst no concrete evidence supports this theory linked to Cobia, similar to last week, the island's scary stories seem to rise at the same time that the CIA in America were carrying out covert operations in Central America. Skeptics have argued that military patrols alone would ensure isolation without any need for a ghost story. However, proponents of the conspiracy theory say that this fear would provide a double layer of protection. Well, whether genuine or fabricated, Cobia's ghosts effectively do guard its secrets, shrouding the island's mysteries and keeping its dark potential secrets hidden. And the legends serve their purpose, ensuring that fear reigns over Devil's Island, where the living stay away, leaving only shadows and unanswered questions behind in this dark realm. Thank you for joining me this week. Please, if you have any suggestions for a dark realm, let me know by making contact at contact@thedarkparanormal.com. And don't forget, if you're listening on audio, you can head over to youtube.com/thedarkparanormal and watch the video version. And vice versa, if you're watching on YouTube, you can go and find The Dark Paranormal wherever you get your podcasts. But for now, stay safe, and I'll see you next week for another step into a dark realm.